Hello, my friend. Welcome to today's practice. The name of today's class is Listen! Listen! No, but a little bit less than that. Like, listen. And it's a very appropriate class. It's a little rainy San Diego morning. We're filming this on Saturday, June, 6th, 5th, 6th. So there's a lot going on in the world right now. And I think no matter where you stand on the issue, we are all being called to listen, because it is a new thing that we are going through, and I think we need to listen to each other. But before we can do that in a meaningful way, we need to be able to listen to ourselves. And that's really what I've been feeling a lot over the past week, of just taking in information and listening to other people's stories and their pain. And it has produced so much going on inside that I really need to take some time to sit and to listen to everything that it's bringing up for me, because I know that I can trust that, because I know that there is some compass mechanism inside that is taking in all of this and processing it. And if I power down and listen closely enough, it'll come up with solutions and ways of moving forward that are very productive. And I don't want to get seduced into unproductive ways of moving through the world right now, which it's easy to do when some of us are feeling a lot of fear, and we want something to do right now to alleviate that fear. And so sometimes it's good. Sit back, learn how to listen, start with ourselves so that we're plugged in there first, and then move that out into the world. That's it. Do you have anything on the matter?
Nicely said.
Cool. I'm Brentan. This is Ollie. And it's going to be a nice, simple class. Hopefully really ooey gooey, good feeling. So grab a yoga block if you have it. If you don't worry. Grab like a pillow of some sort. And we're going to start with you have your yoga block on the lowest height, horizontally on the mat. And we'll lay the shoulder blades down. When the shoulder blades come down, we can interlock the hands behind the head and let the head draw down into the hands. And use this time to draw the head back away from the body, the chin drawing into the chest. And see if you can breathe low and deep. If it feels okay for you, the head nice and soft, keeping the back of the neck nice and long, you might like to start to widen the elbows away from each other. Getting a little bit more opening through the upper back and the chest. So in order to listen, we need to pay attention. See if you can pay attention to everything you're experiencing right now. Let's go ahead and come on up out of this in any way that feels good to you. I'm just gonna self-support and press myself up. You can roll over as well to come up. And we'll move the block back, or the pillow back, and we'll place it underneath the head. If you have a ponytail, get the ponytail out of the way. And even use your hands to lift your head and scoop it up and back so that the back of the neck gets nice and long here. If you have the block and that's not feeling so comfortable for you, you can downgrade to a pillow or like a little stacked blanket. But here we're getting some openness along the back of the neck, which can oftentimes be very, very short, especially if you are someone who rounds in your chest and your upper back a lot. What happens is that your head wants to go down. And so when you want to look up at something when you're driving your car or your computer, the way that you look up is from your chin. And when you jut your chin up, you shorten the back of the neck. So here we're lengthening all of that space out. Now you can decide if you like the pillow here, whether it be the block or an actual pillow. And we'll start doing some self-guided movement on the floor. So you can start by, it's really self-guided, but you might start by moving in your legs a little bit or anywhere. See if you can kind of plug into your intuition. Your intuition is your ability to move and do things without thinking so much about it beforehand. You just kind of feel what's right. Our intuition is something that we can tap into only when we're listening, when we're paying attention. If you have the pillow and you'd like to remove it, you can do so now. And we want to make sure that when we feel ourselves on the floor, that everything feels like it has some space there. So get yourself some length, usually in the neck and the low back. And then we'll, together, if you're ready to move with me, draw your knees into your chest. As the knees come into the chest, start rolling around, tracing the sacrum on the floor. So your sacrum is your low back bones fused together, little triangle of bones in between your dimples on your back, your low back. So when you go in to trace it, really listen and pay attention to the edges of that sacrum. And you see, how does everything feel over there? Think about listening as you're investigating or excavating information from what you're paying attention to. See if you can balance the weight on the center of the sacrum and move the knees in and out in little butterfly motions. See if you can just move your legs and not so much in your torso. So you're recruiting just a little bit of belly to really hold the torso in place. Just feeling those inner thighs. Get a little bit of a stretch. Now, if you wanted to hold it open there, you could hold it open and roll around on the sacrum again. Just seeing if you find any new little spots. Keep the breath low and deep, in and out through the nose. You can move around the other direction on the sacrum. Let's draw the knees into the belly and release the arms into a cactus position where now you can feel your chest. So if this feels like your chest is poofing away from the floor here, maybe you get your head back up onto the pillow because that'll help you ground your ribs and your chest. And just feeling if you can get a sense of stretching through the front of the chest while your rib cage draws down to your pelvis. And now keep your legs kind of glued in toward each other as you begin little rocks to the right and to the left. And try to pay attention to all parts of your body. So your chest that's staying nice and grounded. And then the spine that's rotating. Imagine you're rotating the spine itself. You're always connecting your attention to each piece of your spine. And then your legs are just a little package. They work to hold themselves in that package. See if it's okay for you to finish rolling over to the left. And as you roll, if the right arm lifts up, that's fine. And so we want to see if we can find a place that's comfortable here. If you can't get that right arm and chest to open up, that's a lot of movement for the spine. You might like instead to reach the arm long overhead and reach the fingertips to the floor. Or one of us has our block over here. That could be nice too, getting the fingers lifted up onto a block. And now try to breathe. And get some space for the back of your neck so your chin is tucked. And the whole back side of the body is opening. In order to do that, you need to slurp the front of your body into the back of the body to get the back really full. Let's come on back through center here. Hold on to the right leg as we begin to stretch the left leg, either foot to the floor or leg straight. So you decide what works, what's going to work better for you. But instead of feeling like the goal here is to pull everything away, think about the goal as plugging everything in. So the legs plug into the pelvis, the ribs plug down to the pelvis, the chest opens, the back of the skull grounds down so that the back of the neck gets really long. Seeing if you can put a stretch on the front of the left hip. Let's draw the knees back into center. Point and flex the toes a couple of times, just moving through the ankles here, maybe even rolling around through the feet, stretching and curling into the toes. Check in with your facial muscles here. When they clench, they're trying to communicate something. So check in with your jaw and your tongue and your forehead. You'll notice that these muscles even do this when you're in conversation or when you're listening to somebody speak. And so learning how to feel this and get really close to those mechanisms and what they mean will help us have better conversations with each other. Take the knees in and the arms open back up to cactus. And if the hands feel like they're stretching to reach the ground and they're more up, you might like them upright. Like you can do this, like you can watch me here. If this feels better for your shoulders, do this for your shoulders, because this is a lot of external rotation. We want that to be in the shoulders, but we want the neck to be long and we want your chest to ground down. You'll feel calmer that way. And then we rock a little bit to the right and the left. Trying to listen to everything, every piece of the movement. And coming over this time to the right, hold the package together. I'm holding it together so much that the left arm just lifts up, and I'll reground that left arm once I come over here because I'm more concerned with keeping the center really held together. That's what we want. We want our center to be super held together. That's where we feel strongest. And that can be metaphorical too. And so feeling here, held in at the center as you reach the left arm, and you reach it either out or alongside the ear. Feeling like the whole front of the body is scooping into the back wall, so the whole back you feel a stretch. And the back of the neck too, all of that gets nice and long. Let's come back up. And once we come back up, we'll hold the left leg in. We can reach the right leg long this time. We really want everything to feel plugged in, not stretched out. Like initially you feel stretched out just to get the leg out, but then you recommit to the plugging in, and not just plugging in, but plugging down so that your frontal hip bones are grounded. Your lower ribs are grounded. The back of your head is grounded. So you have space on your back, and you put the stretch on the front of that right hip. Okay, let's go ahead, draw the legs back in. One more time to point and curl through the toes. Really pay attention and articulate those movements. Imagine those strap-like muscles that originate in your shins and they thread down into the feet. And your muscles, their whole point is to move bones. So when you contract and you use those motor units in the muscles, they contract to move bones. You got a lot of bones in your feet. I forget how many, like 26, 33. Those are the two numbers that come to mind. But somewhere around there, that's how many bones we have in the feet. So there's a lot of movement there. All right, let's spend a little moment on our sides in a fetal position. So whatever side you'd like to roll over to, let's roll over. You can use your arm as a pillow or that block or an actual pillow. But see here if you might like to close your eyes and let your chest face the floor. And see what arises here for you. What bodily sensations, what thoughts. Sometimes when you listen in and you tap into that intuition, that knowing of what to do next, it'll take you into different places than the class will take you. And so if you feel like you need to stay here or do something else that your intuition is calling for, please feel free. Let's begin to transition up onto hands and knees pose. And take your time to make your way there. Any type of movement you want to do as you start to get on your hands. Starting to feel what it feels like to be on your hands. Let's move through some cat-cow. But before we do that, you want to find the center position through which you'll be transitioning through. So get your legs strong into your pelvis. And your pelvis is set level, like you could put a cup of coffee on your low back and it would just balance there. And then you want to feel that same thing through the arms. So feel the fingertips grip more than the wrists. So the weight is a little bit more forward in the fingers. And then wrap strength up the arms into the shoulders so that you can feel even like your armpits turn on, your upper back. If you can't feel that yet, just imagine you're feeling it. That's step one. And then feeling your whole spine ignite so you can pay attention to all of it from the tailbone to the crown. Hold your arms and legs this strong as you tip the tailbone up slightly and you start to stretch your chest forward through the armpits. And then the gaze follows and the eyes look up. And now keep the arms and legs this strong as you scoop the tailbone, wrap the ribs, pull the ribs up to the sky, push through the fingertips so that the shoulder blades space out on the back, like they're pulling down towards the wrists as the ribs are lifting up. So you got a lot of space. Come back through center. Find the first position. You want to find even the back bendy one. You want to find even space through the front of the body. And then scooping and rounding, pulling the ribs in. Some of the ribs are going to pull towards the back. Some of the ribs are going to pull towards the ceiling. And moving on your own. When you're listening, you're just trying to make sense of what's going on. Try to make sense of what's going on. Let's lower down onto the forearms. The elbows are down, narrow, and you decide if the hands are wide or clasped. Relax the back of the neck. This will be the hardest thing we do in class, will be our dolphin. So with the toes tucked under, push through the forearms and then lift the rib cage up as the pelvis lifts up and the knees shift up. And now listen here. Try to listen to each part of your body evenly. That may mean that you redistribute some work, some effort. Shifting the shoulders forward and the knees tap back down to the ground. Good job. Keep listening to yourself here. Don't tap out. Let's come back up to the hands. So we just strengthened the shoulders here. We want to hold the spine nice and strong as we step the right foot back. Without tipping in the pelvis, we see, can I use the right hamstring to lift the right leg off the ground? And then can I move it over to the left and cross it sort of like behind that left foot? So really lift up into the ribs, into the shoulders. And from here, we're going to side bend and turn the chest over to the left. So it's like you're like crescent mooning the right side of the body, but you're still holding the pelvis secure. You're pulling the pelvis back away from both armpits, even the left armpit. And then turn back to center with the chest. Release the right foot back. Step the left foot back. And then use the muscles on the leg to lift. Scooch it over to the right any amount. We got to hold the pelvis in place as we side bend over to the right. And I'm even trying to hold the arms in place. My body's really loosey-goosey, so whenever I move one thing, everything else wants to move. So I have to work really hard to hold things still. Okay, come back. This time keep the toes tucked under. And we'll start to sit the hips back towards the feet, so we're unweighting the hands a little bit. So imagine this is like a child's pose. You can widen the knees even if you like, with the toes tucked under. And if it feels good to walk the hands a little bit more forward so that the chest can move towards the floor, you can do that. The forehead can dangle in space. It can tap the ground. You could reach around for your block or your pillow. Put your forehead up on that. Option to stay here or untuck the toes and take a traditional child's pose. If you want just one sort of gravity-led hamstring stretch, lift up off the knees and step the feet nice and wide. And you can have the toes turned in or out, your choice, as you bend the knees and reach the arms forward. Alternatively, if that doesn't feel good, elbows up onto the legs can be a nice choice as well. So just think about this as any type of standing forward bend that might feel good for your back and for your legs. When we listen to what's going on in us, we make better choices because we're gathering more information. We're being problem seekers instead of problem solvers. We can't solve a problem if we don't understand it. So we got to seek it out first, understand it, then solutions happen. Let's go ahead and shift the knees back down. Come around to a seated position here. Whew. Actually, not a seated position, my bad. Come down onto the belly. Okay, so see, I just want to expose us to a few different positions and have us hang out there and just see what comes up. This is one of them. So if you stack your hands and take your forehead down, this is called crocodile pose. And if it doesn't feel good for you to be on your belly for some reason, find those pillows and put it underneath areas that feel like they need a little support, usually the pelvis. And make sure that your bones feel like they have space here. So as you listen and you take inventory of your bones, see if any of them feel like they're a little bit pinched or compressed. And what would you need to do to give them some more space? This can be a position where any number of things are going on for you. And so we're not here to control the experience. I'm not even here to suggest what you should be going through, because I don't know. See for yourself. If you'd like to do a little bit of shoulder work, you can start with taking the hands underneath the elbows that are a little bit back, down your armpits, down by your lower ribs. And we want to do that without closing off any space in our bones. So lengthen the back of the neck here and just begin to move the shoulders forward and back, up and down. If you can do some shoulder rolls, you can do that. And let your forehead get really heavy to the floor here. So your chin is tucked. You can have your forehead on the floor or no, whatever feels good to you. And then see if you can hold the position where the shoulders, the head of the arm bone is rolling up and back. And see if you can light up the muscles on your upper back so they're working to hold that position. Find space in your neck here. If it feels okay for you to hover the hands, can hover the hands, but you're frozen in that shoulder position. Probably don't want to use frozen and shoulder in the same sentence, but you are held strong. Now, continuing that, what if you held the head of the arm the same way and you tented the fingers wide off the mat with the elbows rotating up? And find some space in your low back. Take some nice deep breaths into the lower belly. And then as you press down, see if you can wave the chest up any amount and back down to the ground. So just doing that a couple of times. It might just be a wave of contraction that doesn't look like anything or even much. When you get good at listening, you realize how complex every moment is, even the moments that seem where there's not that much going on. And you better believe that when you are able to listen to what's going on during a yoga practice, like this is a very complex thing, all of the thoughts and the sensations this will translate into your ability to listen elsewhere. Hands down underneath the armpits with the shoulders lifting. And then this time, let's stretch the arms back. And you can do anything here. Like I'm gonna float the fingers back and tent them on the ground just so I can feel the floor. And then I can push that down. And here I'm just gonna pick one foot up off the ground, then replace it. Pick the other foot up off the ground, replace it. Trying to move in the legs and not the low back. So this is getting us some nice chest opening, getting the back of the body to know what its job is. And then from here, releasing back down to crocodiles. If you had your hands stacked one way before, stack it the other way this time with the forehead down. Figure out what you want to do with your legs. What feels good for you here? You might notice how easily your attention can get stuck with something exciting that's happening, like something feels good or just, I don't know, like it stands out to you. And so your attention kind of grabs onto it and it stays there. You might notice that your attention is sometimes skipping forward to the future, like it's trying to rush through something. Okay, now we can come on out to a seat. So however you want to do that. And maybe even be still and listen and see what comes to you as like, yeah, I could roll over or I could push up or I could come up to a little back bend and then pull back to a child's pose. You know, whatever comes to you as a good way of transitioning. So a seated position here. And if you are doing good? Okay. See how you feel here in a seated position. So maybe let's start with Baddha Konasana, if that feels good to you. If that doesn't feel good to you, find a different leg variation. Okay, I'm gonna give you the side view. So we wanna feel in a place here where you are on your sit bones and not on your tailbone. So we wanna try to figure out what the difference is there. So maybe you lean back and you start rocking. And here's the difference. Your sitting bones are at the base of the pelvis. They're bony notches on the pelvis versus your tailbone is the bottom of your spine. So you have sitting bones on either side of the tailbone, and they're part of two completely different bony structures. One is the pelvis and one's the spine. So you want to see, like, where can I get my pelvis onto where I feel like I'm on the sitting bones, not the tailbone. And then I use my hands to support whatever spinal angle that is in space. So it's like I'm preserving the natural four curves of the spine at whatever angle I need to be at and to be on my sitting bones. Hopefully that makes sense. And when you do that, and you really play that edge of like getting the spine nice and long and you're on the sitting bones, you're not letting yourself wrap back onto the tailbone. When you do that, hopefully you feel like the legs are charged and they're being put on a stretch. And so let's see if we can kind of butterfly the knees up and down, which means that you'll actually use those muscles and the brain will have to map that area, because we want the brain not to just map an area in a stretch, because the brain doesn't know what to do with that. We want the brain to map the area with activation, contraction, and also relaxation, like being able to let go of a contraction when we don't need it anymore. So now see if you can hold the knees, like you're pulling the knees down, and feeling if there's any more give now that you've been here for a minute, if you can get any higher up onto the sitting bones and with the spinal angle. Sometimes the brain just needs a minute. Like our brain needs time to feel safe. Our brain needs time to feel safe. Give yourself time. Now let's see one more leg variation, let's say, with a wide-legged forward fold, if that feels good to you. So with the wide-legged forward fold, the legs might be straight, but if you have a lot of limitations in the back line of your body and you're having issues getting up onto these sitting bones, I know it's hard. So if that's you, know that another tool in your arsenal is bent knees. That's like putting a little bit more slack on the bottom side of the pelvis. So use bent legs or straight legs to your advantage. And again, we want the legs to feel like they're active participants. We want them to feel plugged in and also lengthened out evenly through the inseam and the outer seam. And you decide here what this experience is gonna be. I'm even liking just like hands up off the floor. Like this is feeling really good for me, but you might like hands back here. You could take this into a forward fold as well. Try to steady your eyes and your jaw and your tongue and stay with it. Okay, last one, let's see how we do here, is legs forward in Dandasana. So however you want to get them there, be nice to them. Like sometimes when a teacher doesn't explicitly tell me how to go from one place to the next, I find that that's where I'm the sloppiest. So When your teacher gives you freedom to move from one place to the next the way that you want to, take that as your opportunity to listen. And see here, like again, bent legs, straight legs, those are both in your toolkit. And then, wait, how can I be on my sitting bones, right? Because if I here, and then maybe this is my Dandasana today. And that's fine. If I can get myself up on my sitting bones where I can feel them. The traditional pose is like hands down here. And this will only work if your arms are a certain length. Okay, and then finally from here, I'm gonna roll open and I'm gonna assist a knee bend with the hands. This is how it feels really good for me. And then the last place we'll go before Shavasana, we'll take a, oh my God, there's a cricket. Hi, cricket. Oh my goodness, where did you come from? He's right here. He hasn't been saying anything to us.
No.
Because the lights are on.
Okay, buddy. Let us finish the class.
Thank you. We'll see you later. We'll get him.
Bye.
Don't worry. We're not editing this out either because sometimes there's crickets. Okay. A seated position. Now you're more than welcome to stay upright, but we can also calm this back down and come down to our back and rest there for a few moments. And you might like to do that with your block, how we did at the beginning under the shoulder blades or under the head. I think I'll do that. But we'll take another few moments together to listen. So when we listen, we're not listening for anything specifically. We're making ourselves available to whatever happens. And there's a lot to listen to right now. We have our own thoughts and feelings about what's going on around us, and it takes time to process those. And on top of that, we're going to social media and to our news outlets. We're getting 15-second clips of this, that, and the other. And we're getting a lot of information, a lot of calls to action. But we might not be getting a fully nutritional supply of information from all of these places. And these places are also telling us to act fast and to act now. And that can be very confusing because we may have a feeling deep inside that something's missing here, like I'm missing some viewpoint, or I'm seeing only the tip of the iceberg of this. And at the same time, I'm being told, go act and do things now. And so I think before we take that action, we have to sit with ourselves and be quiet and not listen for anything specifically, but just allow whatever comes up to come up. Because deep inside, our conscience will tell us like, oh, hey, maybe this is the piece of information that you're missing. Maybe this is why you're feeling so uneasy about this. Maybe this is something that is worth thinking about and reflecting on that you have been kind of not paying attention to. And when we take the time to do that, everything starts to feel more manageable. And I'm speaking now to my Black brothers and sisters. I'm speaking to my white brothers and sisters, to all people of color, to all people on all continents, to anyone who has been oppressed. We all have work to do.